Good afternoon. So we start off by reciting the Heart of Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. I prostrate to the higher triple gem. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on the mass of Vultures Mountain in Rajagya, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Ayalklishvara looked upon the very practice of profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Ayalklishvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activities of profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Ayalklishvara said this to the Venerable Sharadvatiputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activities of profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristics, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental conscious element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awakened to the unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly specifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it's not false. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is declared: Tayata gate gate, paragate, parasam gate, bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Ayalklishvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharadvatiputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Ayalklishvara, those surrounding in their entirety along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised as spoken by the Bhagavan. Now take refuge and generate bodhicitta. I go for refuge until I am enlightened. to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So do a short meditation and then set the proper motivation. So kindly sit in the meditative posture. Mainly make sure that your body is straight, your backbone is straight. And just simply allow your mind to rest on your breathing. That means just place your attention on your breath. As your body breathes in and out, you become aware of each in and out breath. As your body breathes in, you are aware, breathing in. As your body breathes out, you are aware, breathing out. So simply relax and allow your attention to rest on your breath. Allow your body to breathe naturally. The only thing you need to do is just to be aware of your breathing. Breathing in, you know. Breathing out, you know. Now that your mind has quieted down, we do a bit of reflection. Think that the most meaningful way for us to live our life is to use it to benefit others. Since all sentient beings, all living beings, their wish is to be happy. They do not wish to suffer. Therefore, if we can use our life to benefit others by helping them to attain happiness, by helping them to move away from suffering, that will make our life most meaningful. In order for us to truly benefit all sentient beings, to be able to perfectly bring them to ultimate happiness and guide them once and for all away from all suffering. In order to do that perfectly, we ourselves have to first attain this fully enlightened state, this Buddhahood. Until we attain this enlightened state, we ourselves will not be able to benefit others perfectly, because we ourselves are also bound by delusion and ignorance. Therefore, in order to truly benefit all sentient beings, we ourselves have to attain Buddhahood. In order to accomplish this, in order to attain Buddhahood, we have to actualize the path to enlightenment. And the path to enlightenment consists of two main factors: the accumulation of merits and the accumulation of wisdom. We need both of these to attain the fully enlightened state. For that purpose, in order to complete the accumulation of merits, in order to complete the accumulation of wisdom, we are gathered here today to discuss the teachings of the Buddha on dependent origination. So, think like this, make this as the motivation for coming here today to listen to these very profound teachings from the Buddha. So a quick review of what we covered last week. Last week we were talking about dependent origination means lack of inherent existence. So just to remind ourselves that all phenomena are dependent on something else or other conditions for their arisal. Depending on something else, some causes, other conditions are also causes. Other conditions are also what they call supporting causes or cooperative causes. They are all causes. Sometimes we say that there's cause and conditions, but all conditions are also causes. Cause, usually we refer to the substantial cause, and then conditions. These are the cooperative causes or cooperative causes or supporting causes. So like this, it says all phenomena are dependent on something else or other conditions for their arisal. That means for anything. All phenomena means anything you can think of under the sun, including the sun. The sun also is phenomena. Is a phenomenon. So anything under the sun, anything that we come in contact with, anything we know, for them to exist, for them to come about, for them to be there, it has to depend on something else. That's the meaning of dependent origination. Then Buddha said, whatsoever depends on conditions that is not inherently produced, that is devoid of intrinsic existence. So the first statement there, the first verse talks about how phenomena come into existence, how they exist. It's always depending on something. All right. In fact, this verse also is said by Buddha. So then Buddha further said that anything that has to depend on conditions to come about, then that thing is not inherently produced. That thing is devoid of intrinsic existence. So, which means what? Whatsoever depends on condition, that is inherently produced, that is devoid of intrinsic existence. Whatsoever. Earlier, Buddha already said that all phenomena are dependent on something else. So, meaning that all phenomena do not exist inherently. All phenomena is devoid of intrinsic existence. All phenomena is not inherently produced. So far, okay? The meaning of inherently existing, that has not been explained yet. We're going to explain it in this session, okay? But so far, these two verses, the meaning is quite okay. You have to have some understanding of these two verses. If not, then the rest of the teachings, you're going to get lost, okay? I go through again. This is what we have done last week, last 2 weeks. Buddha said that anything that you can see, you can hear, you can smell, you can touch, you can think about, anything, that means all phenomena, has to depend on something else to come about. Has to depend on something else to be produced. That's the first statement. Okay? We have not investigated yet. This is just a statement only. Right? Later on, we may have time to do some investigation, but that's the statement. Now, based on that statement, then Buddha further said, whatsoever depends on condition, that thing is not inherently produced. That thing is devoid of intrinsic existence. Today we're going to explain the meaning of not inherently produced. We're going to explain the meaning of devoid of intrinsic existence, okay? So first verse you must understand, okay? Then second verse we're going to explore what did Buddha mean by saying that not inherently produced and devoid of intrinsic existence. So then Buddha further said that since no phenomena exists other than origination through dependence, no phenomena exists other than being devoid of intrinsic existence. Since everything has to depend on something else to come about, to arise. For instance, a flower, how does a flower come about? it has to depend on a seed, right? Without a seed, there's no flower. Then you need conditions like water, soil, fertilizer. So these are supporting or cooperative conditions. So like this, only then the flower comes about. So when we see a flower, we must understand that that flower comes about depending on something else. Okay? So then, Buddha said, all phenomena, we cannot see. We only see, okay, understand, flower did not come from, flower comes from the seed, okay? But we, due to our ignorance, due to our confusion, due to our lack of clairvoyance, our lack of wisdom, we see other things as there on its own. But Buddha said, all phenomena, not only the flower, not only the durian, not only the clouds, not only the house, not only this class. This class comes about due to causes and conditions. There must be a teacher, there must be a place, there must be students. If there's no students, there's no class. You all don't come, then there's no class. If you all come, then there's no teacher, there's also no class. If all of us assemble, there's no venue, there's also no class. All right? And there must be a subject. If there's no subject, then we'll just come here, look at you, look at me, I look at you, then there's no class. All right? So having this Dharma talk itself is dependent arising. Okay? So Buddha said, anything getting off is dependent arising. And since everything is dependent arising, then everything is devoid of intrinsic existence. At this moment, you do not have to understand the meaning of intrinsic existence. As I said, we're going to explore that further today. But you understand the reasoning. Okay? It's devoid of intrinsic existence. Okay, this is what we have covered last 2 weeks. Summary of that. So we continue. So we know what is dependent origination. No or not? No lah. At least must say no lah. After 2 weeks still don't know, then then we have to start again. Dependent origination means everything has to depend on something else. Okay. That part, first 2 words, dependent origination, the meaning we understand. Then the next one, it says, dependent origination also means selflessness. Now we are moving into a new area. Dependent origination, because if I would ask you, okay, now that I've explained for the last 10 minutes on dependent origination, plus the last 2 classes, what is dependent origination? Then straight away you will say, oh yeah, the flower depends on the seed, the chicken comes from the egg, then the egg comes from the chicken. So dependent origination, okay? That part we understand. But as we go deeper into the meaning of dependent origination, what does dependent origination implies? It means selflessness. So today we're going to discuss meaning of selflessness, shunyata, emptiness. So let's backtrack a little bit and talk about meaning of inherent existence. Buddha keep on saying that everything that is dependent origination, it is devoid of, that means it doesn't have, devoid of inherent existence. There's no inherent existence. So firstly, in order to know the meaning of devoid of inherent existence, firstly we must understand what is the meaning of inherent existence. Then, once we understand what is the meaning of inherent existence, then when Buddha say it is devoid of inherent existence, then we understand everything. Okay? So, inherent existence or intrinsic existence. Inherent existence or intrinsic existence means existing with these characteristics, with the following thing. So when Buddha says intrinsic existence, it means something that has the following characteristics. Firstly, something that is substantial, something that is there, that is unchanging. Okay? Something that is unitary. Unitary means single entity, one by itself, without any parts or directional aspects. Number 3, something that is autonomous, something that is independent, meaning that something that is self-sufficient, being able to be on its own without having to depend on any other thing. So when we say something is dependent, something is inherently existing, or something has inherent existence, that's the meaning. This is the definition. Well, it's not really a definition. It's the characteristics or the attribute of the meaning inherent existence. I explained a little bit the 3 points, because the 3 points there may be not so clear. Substantial, unchanging. Something that is not changing. So if I say this thing, whatever it is, if I say this thing is inherently existing, I'm saying that this thing is substantial, unchanging. Okay? Unchanging means not changing. Is this thing not changing? Well, on a gross level, it looks like not changing, because now this bag is here. 5 minutes later, this bag is still here. No change. Seems to be permanent. But if you look at it on a more subtle level, on a broader sense, longer time, you find that this bag does change, right? The color fades, then the thread gets worn out, etc., etc. So certainly this thing is not substantial, because it is changing. Okay? So we accept that. So then, therefore, this thing is not inherently existing, because it doesn't qualify for the first character. Second characteristic would be unitary, single entity without parts. This thing got parts or not? Sure got parts. How this thing come about? A piece of cloth. Even the cloth itself, there's the embroidery, then there's the button there, then there's the sewing, then there's the zip. So all these are parts. So this thing, since they have parts, and not only that, this has directional aspect. Directional aspect means got top, bottom. This lap here, zip is up here. Obviously, this is the top. We call it the top. And this is the bottom. And this is the corner. Okay? And from your perspective itself, this is the left side and this is the right side. So it has parts, it has direction. So in that sense, again, this bag or this purse does not qualify. The second characteristics does not apply to this. Okay? So third one, autonomous and independent. Self-sufficient, being able to be on its own without having to depend on anything else. We have already described that since this has to not only depend on parts, somebody has to sew it, no? Somebody has to cut the cloth. And before the cloth is being cut, somebody has to weave the cloth. And before the cloth is being woven, somebody has to, assuming that this is cotton, somebody has to go to the cotton field to pluck the cotton and then like this make into cloth. So there is a whole process of causes, condition, like that. And finally, this comes about. So therefore, this bag, is it autonomous? That means completely independent, no need to depend on something else now. No. This comes about due to causes and conditions. All right? Clear? So, based on these 3 points, we are looking at the negative. It is not unchanging. It is not singular. It is not independent. So what is the conclusion? This bag, what is your conclusion? This bag is devoid of inherent existence. Devoid means don't have. If I say this bag has inherent existence, means it must be permanent, never change at all. From since beginner's time until the end of the whole universe, it will still be the same, not changing. If I say this bag is inherently existing or intrinsically existing, then it must be singular, without parts. Then it must also be completely independent, not having to depend on other conditions to come about. So all this bag fail, right? So therefore this bag is devoid of inherent existence. So far clear or not? Okay, then finish, pass. You're pass already. Because this also is very important point, devoid of inherent existence. Okay? So then, yeah, this we have already gone through it already. Can anything, any phenomena really exist inherently, completely on its own accord, having the characteristics mentioned earlier? So just can anything exist on that now, based on this? Can you think of anything that is unchanging? Mountain, Mount Everest, is it unchanging? No, changing bit by bit. Some scientists or geologists, they measure the height of the Himalayas seems to be like growing up a little bit or growing down, whatever it is, very, very small. Then of course, when people climb the mountain, then they chip, some of the rocks come out. So the mountain, one piece of small rock is gone. So it is changing. All right? So is Himalaya mountain, Mount Everest, Himalaya is too big, the mountain range. Mount Everest itself, is it one solid piece by itself or not? It seems to appear that way, right? When we look at a picture, wow, the whole Mount Everest is there. But when you look at it, it is just a combination of rocks and stones and all that combined together, right? So therefore, Mount Everest is not singular, not unitary. Mount Everest, is it independent or autonomous? No. It depends on the weather. It depends on so many things. Therefore, after millions of years, Mount Everest comes to existence. And after another few million years, then Mount Everest maybe will no longer be there. So therefore, we strike out one down. Mount Everest is devoid of inherent existence. Mount Everest does not exist inherently. These are words having the same meaning. Then you can think, anything. Your house, obviously not. Your house does not have all these characteristics. So your own house also lacks inherent existence. Is devoid of inherent existence. Your favorite dress, we always think that we have a nice dress and it is going to be there forever. True or not? Not true. Your favorite pair of shoes. Sometimes we keep shoes. Wow, I like these shoes. I've been wearing it for 10 years already. I must set the deal, you know. When you move house, so you must keep. Actually, cannot wear it. Why? Because the leather got worn out, whatever it is. We think that it is there. It is not. All right. So far, this concept, is it acceptable? Huh? Okay. I'm going very slowly because it's very important to build up this whole process of logically understanding what is the meaning of emptiness. So then we can think the weather, the clouds, the rainbow, these are very obvious. The country of Singapore, is it inherently existing? No. 60 years ago, we just finished 50 years birthday celebration. 60 years ago, there was no country as Singapore. All right, there's a place called Singapore. And then even you go back 200, 300 years ago, there was no Singapura, right? That place doesn't even exist. And even the size of Singapore, the land mass is not permanent. It is growing, expanding more and more. As we expand, then the sea level rises due to climatic global warming. So we expand Singapore, our land mass, and then the water come up higher, and then shrink it. So like this, everything is dynamic. So Singapore is not inherently existing. Singapore is devoid of inherent existence. Okay? So you can take your time, go back, and then contemplate anything you see. All right? Let's contemplate, investigate the possibility of things existing inherently without having to depend on anything else. Nothing. If you to, when we don't investigate, when we don't analyze, we just assume it is there. All right? Don't think we don't fall into that trap, no? Maybe you go away to overseas for some work or holiday, whatever it is. Huh? Or you go back to, in Singapore, you go back to an area where you were born or you grew up as a child. Maybe you go back to Choa Chu Kang. Then you look at it. So different. It's all changed. What sort of feeling you have? A bit of sadness, right? It's a bit of sadness. Why we have that sadness? Because mentally, we expect things to not change. Of course, when you cool down, and then you say things change, you say, yeah, things change. But that's not the level. Those are gross level. Subtly, we expect things not change. We sometimes tell our friends, our spouse, after all these years, you have changed, Yeah, you have changed. As though I don't change. Only you change. You change a lot, You're a completely different person from the one I married, What do you expect? If you understand this dependent origination, of course everything changed. Saying that statement itself is 多余. No need to say. This is where the wisdom comes in. Of course, you can say it, but we say it with the feeling that really you have changed, What do you expect? That means you expect the person don't change the same, everything is the same. That means you expect the person to be inherently existing. Buddha already said there's no such things. Everything is devoid of inherent existence. So in order to grow this wisdom, we have to explore, we have to contemplate. It's not just coming here, listen, and then all like that. Then once you go out, sure you'll forget. Our mind is very much due to habit. Our mind is always looking at things as though it is there on its own, right? So we have to do this contemplation. So then there's a statement here to say that since inherent existence can never come to an end, that means when we say inherent, one line by one line, inherent existence means something that does not change, right? Okay? So now that statement, the conditions. Inherent existence means something cannot change. So since inherent existence can never come to an end, anything that does not change, anything that is permanent, will there be an end or not? No end. No end. Because it is there, what? Alright. So, if that's the case, if phenomena had any inherent nature, nirvana would be impossible. If everything is inherently existing, then how we say now we are in samsara? We want to get out of samsara to attain nirvana. That means there must be change. Right? Nirvana, samsara, nirvana are different states of existence, or mental states. So, how can nirvana be possible if everything cannot change? And last line, all fabrication could not be stopped. Everything that is there cannot be changed, cannot be stopped. Anything that is there, all fabrication means anything that is there, it is there. That means if the sun is there, it's always there. All right? The sun will never set. The fact that the sun set itself is changing. All right? So imagine a world where everything is inherently existing. You would not move because you become a block of stone, a block of wood. Right? That will come later, next week. So anyway, so far we have developed a bit of wisdom that all things, because they are dependent origination, therefore they are devoid of inherent existence. But subtly, although we listen, now intellectually you have some understanding, but subtly we have the ignorance. Our ignorance grasps at this inherently existing self. Due to our ignorance, the ignorance we are talking about is not just the gross ignorance, but very subtle ignorance. All right? Due to our ignorance or confusion, we identify everything as inherently existing, having an independent self that is existing on its own, from its own side. When you look at this one, of course, is not so interesting. Imagine it's your iPhone, your new iPhone. When you hold up your iPhone itself, when you look at your new iPhone, what you see? What appears to you? What is your reaction? You see something that is there. My iPhone is there. The iPhone has a self. The iPhone is on its own, existing on its own from its own side. This is quite subtle. When we don't investigate, you may say, what are you talking about? I don't understand. But you try. When you go home, okay, no need to go home. Now you can do it. When you sit down here, what you see? I already said, this is a Dharma class, right? So you say, well, I'm in Dharma class. That moment, I'm in the Dharma class. To you, the Dharma class itself is solidly existing on its own. If you don't analyze. Just now we analyzed already. This Dharma class is not inherently existing on its own. It is all the conditions. But when you don't analyze, things just appear to us. This Dharma class is like that. And similarly, everything else, your mobile phone, your watch, whatever it is like that. This is our ignorance. This is how things appear to us. Not only, that is not the problem. The problem goes even more deeper than that. Not only we identify with an inherently existing self. Inherently existing self means the self, the word self here means that thing. We identify that this pouch is there inherently. It has a self. It's by its own. Not only we identify it, we believe that this identity is true existence, and we grasp at this true existence. That there is truly a self existing on our own side as the reality. That is called self-grasping. Grasping on to a concept that there is a self. Grasping on to the concept that there is something there outside on its own that is completely independent or completely not having to depend on anything else. That is our ignorance, right? This part is actually quite profound. Okay, if you are hearing the first time, or even you have heard it many times, it gets a little bit confusing. Doesn't matter. I'm just introducing you that root of our problem. The root is this ignorance of grasping. Okay, but later on we go to some easier area. But this has to be introduced because this is the ultimate. If you can understand this, you know how to work on it, then you can get out of samsara. You can attain liberation. So ignorantly, because of that, ignorantly we grasp at this identity as a self. So that means we look at this bag. This bag, when you look at this bag, how does this bag appear to you? It appears that it is there, right? When you don't analyze, it is there. That it is on its own. So when it's on its own, we call that a self. The self here, the word self itself, is not just human as a self. Everything that is on its own is a self. Okay? The word self is used in a very broad sense. So this has a self on its own. So similarly, the cup has a self, the bowl has a self, and whatever, this has a self. It is there. Undeniably, it is there. There's a self. So this has a self. So we hold on to this. It is not here, the word self itself is something that is existing on its own side. That is on its own side. So ignorantly, we grasp at this identity that there's a self, that this thing is substantial, is unchanging. This thing is, these conditions, just now we already discussed, is unitary, singular, without parts, autonomous, and independent, self-sufficient, being able to be on its own. So this is the self that we ignorantly think that it exists, and we grasp at that. So this grasping is the root of our ignorance. It is this confusion of the grasping at inherent existence that binds us in cyclic existence. It is the same confusion of grasping at inherent existence, self, that we need to eradicate in order to be liberated from samsara. Some of you here in this class have been listening to this teaching on dependent origination and emptiness for quite some time already. Maybe also actually practicing, trying to cut this ignorance. By looking at this, you will understand. You must know where to cut. We are cutting at our grasping. We are cutting at our grasping, not cutting at that inherent existence. Things appear to us as inherently existing. If we do not grasp at it, that's not a problem. It's because of our grasping. Therefore, we take rebirth. Right? You remember the 12th link of interdependent arising? We explained briefly on the second session. That is because of grasping. Then the 12th link continue to go round and round. We cycle in samsara because of grasping. Right? So some of you find this a little bit difficult to understand, but it's okay. For the time being, just put this aside. Anyway, you can refer to the notes and do some reading in the future. So, okay, come back to this point. Now, we have explained what is inherent existence. Then, we have explained that things are devoid of inherent existence. And also we have explained our ignorance, that due to our confusion, We do not know, we do not recognize that things are lack of inherent existence, we go and grasp at it. So now we're going to come to understand devoid of inherent existence means emptiness. Now we come to this word, emptiness or selflessness. Whatsoever depends on condition that is devoid of inherent existence. This statement we have already seen. Since no phenomena exists other than origination through dependence, no phenomena exists other than being devoid of intrinsic existence, the Buddha taught. This slide you have already seen earlier. Just to remind ourselves. Keep on reminding ourselves that always come back. Because everything is dependent on origination, therefore they are devoid of inherent existence. Devoid of inherent existence means lacking of an inherently existing self. In other words, selflessness. No self. Selflessness means emptiness, shunyata. In Buddhist study, they always talk about shunyata. It means empty of inherent existence, not existing inherently. Up to now, if you can understand just this statement, you can go and boast to your friends already. Your friend asks you, what is sunyata? Your Buddhists talk about emptiness, emptiness. What is the meaning of emptiness? Can answer or not? Like that lah. Emptiness means lack of inherent existence. Emptiness or selflessness. The word emptiness, selflessness, we use it interchangeably. Emptiness or selflessness or shunyata. Means shunyata is Sanskrit. Means lack of inherent existence. Immediately you, as though like your status in terms of Buddhist study has already gone up a few levels already. Then you feel very proud. Then your friend could scratch your head. Hey, but what's the meaning of inherent existence? And then you must answer that. Can I answer or not? Or lack of, what do you mean by lack of inherent existence? To answer this question, the meaning of lack of inherent existence, you go back to where? Dependent origination. You explain dependent origination. From dependent origination, from the explanation of dependent origination, where things have to depend on each other, therefore, they lack inherent existence. And when they are lacking of inherent existence, we describe it as emptiness, selflessness, or shunyata. Okay? Anyway, we give some time for you to ask questions. So far we say that devoid of inherent existence, emptiness, nothing. Okay, emptiness, nothingness. Then we have to be careful, okay? Emptiness or selflessness does not mean nothingness. Emptiness or selflessness means lack of inherent existing self. However, selflessness or emptiness does not mean nothingness, does not mean voidness or vacuum. Sometimes we use just the word empty. Emptiness is okay. Sometimes we use the word empty. Everything is empty. So, remember the sutra we recited before the class? The Heart Sutra. No ears, no eyes, no nose, no smell, no taste, no touch. Buddha said everything don't have. Then actually at the end of it, it's no attainment and also no attainment and also no non-attainment. No attainment. Buddha attained Prince Siddhartha attained Buddhahood. So no attainment, that means there's no Buddha. Very easy we fall into that trap, no? That misunderstanding that, now I know already Buddhism, everything is empty. What do you mean by everything is empty? Nothing, lor. There's nothing there. You must make sure you do not fall into this misunderstanding. All right? When we say generally speaking, when we say empty, you say the cup is empty. Means what? Inside got no water, right? Nothing. So cup is empty. You say inside nothing. So when we say the word empty, we always refer to or imply that there's nothing there. But when we talk about emptiness, here, emptiness does not mean nothingness. Selflessness. Here, up to this state, we talk about selflessness, liking ourselves. Today is introduction. Next week, we'll talk about selflessness of a person. Then you understand there's no self. There's no me. You get a shock. Right? That's not the meaning of that. So, if you hold on to the idea that selflessness means nothingness, that nothing exists at all, that is the extreme view of nihilism. That is the wrong view. Many people take it that way. And not only many people, there are some so-called Buddhist scholars hold on to that view. Emptiness means nothing. That is really, really a big mistake. If you come and attend a class on emptiness, and then you go back with the idea that emptiness means nothing. Okay? Although all things are empty of inherent existence, that means they do not exist inherently, they are selfless, but they do exist. There's something there. Just now, we've gone through the exercise. We examine this bag. All right? We say that this bag is not permanent. Right? So the first point, I already cross out. Is it permanent? No. Is it unitary? That means single unit? No. It's composed of cloth and all that sort of thing. Okay? So therefore, second point out. Is it independent? That means it does not depend on causes to come about. No. It needs people to sew, it needs a cloth, etc., etc., etc. So therefore, on this basis, when you examine this bag, what is your conclusion? Your conclusion is that this bag is devoid of inherent existence. It lacks inherent existence. Meaning, this bag does not exist inherently. But does this bag exist or not? This is the point earlier. The point. Then people would think that, since there is nothing there, then there's no bag. That's wrong. Does this bag exist or not? Yes, of course. It is there. Something there. All right. This means that, I missed one point. So when we say that when this bag is lack of inherent existence, means we say that this bag is selfless. This bag is empty. The earlier part, those earlier part. So, although we say that this bag is empty, it does not mean that there's no bag. There is a bag. There's something there. So, therefore, this bag does exist. It does exist. How does it exist? There exists a self. This bag has a self. But it is a self that is not inherently existing. There is a self, but this self is not inherently existing on its own. That self that exists comes about in the nature of dependent origination. So your whole study or your whole understanding of dependent origination of emptiness has to go back round in the whole circle. If your study or understanding of dependent origination is one way, then you're going to be in the wrong track. You either go to the extreme of nihilism, that things don't exist, or things always exist. Your reasoning on dependent origination has to go in a full circle. You study dependent origination. Look at things that everything comes about, put together. All right? Then on this basis, since they're put together, therefore they do not exist on their own. They cannot exist on their own. And since they cannot exist on their own, they do not have a self, an independent self, therefore we call it selfless. So since it's selfless, it also means emptiness. All right? And yet, although it is empty, it exists. It exists. There is a bag there, and this bag comes about through dependent origination. So you have to go through the full cycle of that explanation. Then your mind becomes clear. If you try to explain only like one way, you're going to get confused. Okay? So just remember, when we talk about dependent origination, we are talking about emptiness or selflessness. When we talk about emptiness, we are talking about dependent origination. These two cannot be separated. Once you try to separate them, then you're going to get confused and going to be mistaken. Okay? So it exists. These things exist. They exist. Things exist through dependent arising. How this thing exists depends on causes and conditions. All right? Depends on parts. Depends on laboring. Mental destination. When we make all this together, we say, oh, this is a bag or pouch. Therefore, there's a pouch. So, therefore, such a thing exists. So, inherent existence and emptiness. Coming to an end already, okay? You all may think, wow, still going on. No, coming to the end. All the teachings will be very short because they are quite profound. This is a statement: the grasping of inherent existence is the cause of all unhealthy views. Just now we already say, due to our ignorance, due to our confusion, we see something, it appears to be inherently existing on its own side. Without thinking, we believe that it is inherently existing, and we grasp onto that. So this grasping of inherent existence is the cause of all unhealthy views. That means all the problems that we have come from that. All the problems we have in the world, in samsara, comes from that. Afflictive emotions are not produced without this error. The first line, that is an error. It's wrong. Grasping at inherent existence. So if we do not have this error, if we do not, we have the wisdom, if we have the wisdom, come again. Due to ignorance, due to confusion, we grasp at inherent existence. But, which is an error, which is wrong. If we have the wisdom that stops us from grasping at inherent existence, if we have that wisdom, afflictive emotion will not be produced. All our anger, all our desire, all our pride, all our jealousy, whatever you think of, all the negative emotions, all the emotion comes from where? The root is grasping at inherent existence. So when we talk about all these afflictive emotions, delusion, the root is ignorance. Ignorance of what? Ignorance that grasps at inherent existence. Therefore, third line, therefore, when emptiness is thoroughly known, unhealthy views and afflictive emotions are thoroughly purified. So now what we are trying to do in this course is just to introduce to you the idea of emptiness. Because it says here, when we know the true meaning of emptiness thoroughly, that means completely, then all these unhealthy views, afflictive emotions are thoroughly purified. So you see the importance of understanding emptiness properly, right? Because that is the thing that will cut samsara here. When selflessness is seen in objects, the seed of cyclic existence is destroyed. That means when you train yourself to develop the level of wisdom or realization of the wisdom where whenever you perceive anything, you see that as lack of inherent existence. That means you see it as empty. Empty means what? Selflessness. Selfless. So you see things as empty. You see things as empty, as selfless. Whenever if you're able to do that, then the seed of cyclic existence is completely destroyed. That means end of samsara. That is how we end samsara. That's how we attain liberation from samsara. And this is what Buddha has taught us. And this is what Buddha has realized, that is his awakening under the Bodhi tree. Buddha realized that that's it. If we stop, since all things are selfless, then there's nothing to hold on. Then immediately he attained nirvana. And for us to attain the state of nirvana, for us to stop all suffering once and for all, that we end all our suffering, we use the same method, practice in the same way, to develop the wisdom that we are able to see selflessness in all objects, including I or me. When we are able to do that, we will attain liberation. This I or me is quite difficult to let go. Why we cannot let go? Because we think that this I or me is there on its own, solidly existing on its own side. So next week, we're going to look at the selflessness of the I. We're going to explore whether there's got such a thing as I or not. I exist or not. Okay? So that's going to be quite interesting. If you can do that alone, and you meditate on that, you can end samsara. But not easy, huh? But at least the idea. The first step is that at least you must understand the idea. You understand the idea, the way to do it, only then you can start to do it. Okay? Okay, so today we end here. It's a bit heavy. I try to make it simple. That means I don't go too technical. I try to make it lighter because this is supposed to be a brief introduction. Some of you may be hearing this the first time, so it can be quite confusing. But as you listen to it more, because emptiness is an aspect of development of wisdom. It's not like compassion. Compassion, loving kindness, you just go out and do something, you know. But emptiness is an aspect of wisdom. We say that we need to develop merits, we need to develop wisdom. So this wisdom aspect needs a lot of contemplation. You just need to move out a little bit and start to look at things, examine things, and do a lot of contemplation. Then as you contemplate more, you find that actually it gets quite interesting. Emptiness is quite profound, and yet it is quite interesting because it's talking about the truth. We are investigating the truth, the ultimate nature of all phenomena. That is the ultimate truth. It can be very interesting. But it needs time. You all need to, don't rush into it. Just do it slowly. And eventually the concept has to be there. You understand the concept itself, that is not enough. We have the habituation, our habit of holding on to things as inherently existing. Then we have to slowly change our perspective. Right now we see things as truly existing. We have to change our perspective 180 degrees to learn to see things as not or lack of inherent existence. So that is the most difficult part. Understanding the wisdom in terms of on an intellectual level is not so difficult. Changing our mind, twisting it, is the tough part in terms of the practice. But then, got choice or not? No choice. We don't practice, then we remain in samsara. So this life you finish, next life you're born again. And born again, the next life you're born again. You die and born again. And like this, since beginner's time we have been doing this and don't know how long you're going to stay like that. And each life going to be more and more difficult. So, okay, so any questions? Yes?
Question related to last week's lesson.
Yes.
You said cause and effect co-arise. They arise simultaneously. This is looking from a result point of view. It's not from the cause. If you look how it arises, then you will say cause comes before effect. You would like to say that?
No, yeah, I mean if you look at it from that point of view, there's a cause, then there's an effect, right? So we say cause, come, effect. But in reality, if you look at it, even if you in reality is that when there's no cause, when there's no effect, there's no cause. So the very moment the what you call it, the effect comes, then when the effect arises, then the cause is established. It is establishing the state of, or the status of cause, or the status of effect. There must be effect, then only can be a cause. Then similarly, there must be a cause, then there only the effect. Because until the seed, all right, the seed itself, we say the seed and the plant, until the seed starts to germinate, that one instant, that seed is still not the cause of the plant. You can see, the seed. Generally speaking, we say, this is a seed. Seed must be the cause of a plant. That is just looking at in general. But in reality, is this seed a cause of a plant? Until it shows a result, you cannot say that it's a cause. So there must be a result. That means it starts to germinate, start to a little bit come out. This seed is the cause of this plant. But when the seed still remains dormant, then that is not the cause, because there's no result. Okay? Yeah, just a seed. It's a seed like any other seed. Then when we talk about a seed here, we talk about that as a specific seed, as a cause. Just like the egg. You cannot say the egg is the cause of the chick. Until the chick come up, then you say the egg is the cause of the chick. Because then the egg, you can say eggs are, all the eggs, so many eggs, are they causes of chick? No. Until that specific egg hatch, a chick come out, then say that egg is the cause of the chick.
I'm looking from the perspective of compassion. You have the compassion must develop to love, right?
Yes.
Without love, you cannot compassion.
Yeah.
Love have to come up first, and you have to have love first, so it's not simultaneous in that sense.
No, you see, when you say you must have love, then you must have compassion, okay? But compassion itself, for compassion to arise, compassion itself has the element of love inside. Yes, yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, I understand. And the second question is, every effect must also be a cause for something else.
Yes.
This implies infinity, right?
Yes.
So is there anything that is not be the cause for something else, or effect that is not cause?
Anything that is not the cause of something else. We say that every effect must be the cause of something else. Infinite. That eventually it will be. Eventually, yes. Nothing. Everything will eventually be a cause. Every effect will be a cause of something else, right? So eventually it will be. For instance, like okay. I mean, there are many things. For most of us, I just want to emphasize. For most of us, because this guy is a scholar student, no? He studied philosophy. So when you want to go to that, then it's sometimes very interesting to debate. But for most of us, not necessary to go into this. But just to illustrate the point. For instance, we see that Mount Everest, right? Mount Everest. Then, due to something, somebody chipped something, use a pixel to climb mountain, then a piece of stone dropped down. So the effect is the stone dropped down, right? What you're saying is that effect must be the cause of something else. That effect, the fact that it drop down on the floor, it becomes what? Part of the floor. Therefore, immediately that effect of the stone dropping down becomes part of the ground. It forms part of the ground. So that is the cause of the ground maybe become higher or whatever it is. So it goes on and on and on. It does not necessarily mean that it must be like what we said, the seed must give a plant, plant must give a seed and all that sort of thing. Because eventually, maybe the plant, let's say you have a seed, then it gives a plant, then the plant dies, and then that seed is so-called impotent. But then the seed, so then how can the effect is a seed, right? How can that be the cause? Maybe because it's impotent, therefore it cannot be the cause for another plant to grow. But then the fact that this seed is impotent, it drops on the floor, maybe becomes a fertilizer, it becomes a cause for something else.
I think I should qualify myself. I'm thinking more on terms of consciousness rather than the mental aspect.
Consciousness?
Yeah, the mind aspect. In fact,
what do you mean?
for me, for example, anger to rise, there must be some cause.
Sure, of course. Yeah. Is there end to anger? No, I mean, here we're not about the end to anger itself. No, we know that anger arises due to some cause, and because of anger itself, anger makes you do something lah. All right? Because of anger, then you want to take revenge. So anger is the cause, revenge is the result. It is mental consciousness. There's no end. There's no end. Right? We say that why we get angry. We're talking about mental consciousness, not physical, material. All right? Somebody says something. You hear something, that's also in the mind. You hear something, make you unhappy, therefore you're angry. So the person say the words, you stupid, that's the word, that's the cause. And then the result is anger. And when anger arises in the mind, then we're talking about mind, talking about consciousness. So the next thought is that I want to take revenge. Okay? I want to hit back. So the anger becomes the cause for you to generate a thought that you want to take revenge. So when you say, I'll take revenge, then on that basis, what am I going to do? I'm going to sabo him. So like this, no end, no end. So the idea, you see, that's the thing. You see, that's the understanding. The idea is not trying to stop dependent origination. The idea is to understand dependent origination, that everything is dependent origination, therefore everything is empty and therefore nothing to grasp at. Therefore we say that our problem is we're grasping at it. That means our wisdom is that we stop grasping. Is that, it's nothing, it's like that. Rain, after rain, sun will come. After sun, rain will come. Right? Then rainbow will come. After rainbow, disappear. It's like that. After this president, next president will come. It's like that. Huh? So, and even if in some countries after that no more president, then somebody will come and take over as in charge or whatever it is. So like that, it's just evolve. Okay? Yeah. That's why when you understand dependent origination, it's very interesting, no? Huh? But you need to contemplate. You need to do a lot of discussion, which is good to ask questions. But some questions are such that we never think about from that angle. So somebody asks you that question from that angle, never think about it, man. Why like that? Then you need to contemplate. But if you contemplate, you find that eventually, more questions, but eventually the answer is there. Okay? Any other questions? Go back and think. Go back and think. To be able to do that, what you need, you must practice mindfulness. Because our mind goes off very fast. After this, well, it's early, 4 o'clock. Maybe you go too early for dinner. Maybe then you go gai, or go to some shopping mall nearby. You see something, this I like. Wow, so good. I like. As though like whatever it is, the shoe, the dress, or the what, is truly existing there. I like, I want, die, must buy. And then go until there, you try. Don't have size. Why like that? No size. Why you don't keep stock? All this emotion comes in as though truly existing. So how do we guard ourselves? By practicing mindfulness. When you see a beautiful dress or beautiful shoe or your handphone or watch, first thing is breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Watch your breath, stabilize your mind. Then you think everything is just selfless, it's empty. A watch is just a watch. And maybe the workmanship is better, maybe whatever. A watch is a watch. Still you buy or not? Yeah, you can afford it, you buy it. But you don't grasp at it. You still can enjoy it, but you don't grasp at it. Our problem is not that we should not enjoy. Our problem is that we grasp at it. Cannot get, feel very unhappy. Want to eat something, go until there, the store closed, very unhappy. That's how it is. We go, don't have long. Why don't have? The guy go for holiday, school holiday. Today is the last day of school holiday, right? Tuesday, school start already. So bring the children out. So you go until there, the store closed. Your favorite bak kut teh closed. Okay lah. That's all. Why get angry? Because it's truly existing. This guy go for holiday. Causes and conditions, it's like that. Everything happens like that. So practice mindfulness. Practice watching your breath. And like this, consistently you go about, right? Yeah, as I say, watching your breath. Then whenever you see something you want to buy, then you watch your breath. Count 21 times. And then after that, see whether you still want to buy it. If you still want to buy it, then go ahead and buy it. Okay, if there's no other questions, then next week, as we said, we go somewhere, we explore I. That's a very important aspect because everything comes from this I. All the problem, all the anger, attachment, delusions, jealousy, hatred, and desire comes from this I. Is there an I or not? We try to explore. So selflessness of the person. So dedication. Through the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. May the supreme view of emptiness that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Okay, so thank you very much. See you next week. Have a nice long weekend.